And that's it. Aloha. Welcome to the Caring Caregivers Show. I'm your host, Savvy Makalena, the founder of Gimme a Break, which is, of course, a nonprofit organization that's caring for caregivers. And we're here to bring back the joy of caregiving. And each week we help you caregivers to survive. That's right. I said survive. You know that you're at risk. You're at high risk. And the current statistic nationwide is that 50% of caregivers will not survive the one they are caring for. That's totally unacceptable. And we are here to make sure that you practice self care, wellness, and find joy. By the way, I know I talk about this every now and then, but I'm going to bring it up today as well. If you're 70 years and older and caring for someone, that statistic, that percentage, breathe, goes up to 70%. So 70% of those caring for somebody else over the age of 70 will not survive. They will pass before the one they are caring for. Is your wellness important? Yes. Your wellness as a caregiver matters. You matter. And we're here to make a difference about that. In fact, we offer you a break every week with Give Me a Break, and you can come on to our support sessions. They're free and online, so they're totally convenient, totally affordable. We have a lot of caregivers who are in their cars, on their cell phones, bedside to the one they care for. And that's when you want to come on to our sessions. So every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m., log in. It's what every caregiver needs. And you just type in our phone number, which is 808-754-3787. And that will get you right on to our support session. So if you go to a Zoom and type that in as the meeting ID, there's no password and anyone's welcome. You don't even have to be currently caregiving now. You could be a caregiver that was or a caregiver that will be. We're all caregivers, and you're more than welcome to join us. Even if you know someone who's currently having caregiving issues and they won't come on for them. Then you can share whatever the community you've learned from the community of caregivers. Because really, that's all we are. We're just a community of caregivers, just like you, sharing with one another and being there to support one another. You know, last night we actually had Melinda. Some of you who have been following the podcast are familiar with her now. She's done several outreach programs for us. Melinda Chinen, who is a grief coach, and she has done several presentations for us and all of you, even at some one-on-ones. She just donates her time for you caregivers. And so she was on last night to talk with us. We had a wonderful, we just had a wonderful little session, and she kind of helped us move through some of the pain that we're having and release that. She taught me to embrace our guilt, embrace our grief. And sometimes we fight it and think it's wrong, but it's good to embrace it. And she's definitely helped me get through a lot of that. So a wonderful person, and she'll be on many more times. So you never know what you're going to get. And we'd love to have you there and join us on our sessions. Okay, here comes the ad. The Caring Caregiver Show is sponsored by Givers Guides Online Magazine. Now, Givers Guides is a caregiver's guide to caregiving. It's written exclusively for caregivers and from a caregiver's point of view. So it's made for you. Go get your subscription. Go today. Go on giversguides.com. It's $24.99, totally worth it. And it's all the proceeds go to support Give Me a Break and what we do for caregivers. And by the way, at Give Me a Break, none of us get salaries. So any monies that are donated go directly to help caregivers, to pamper caregivers, to bring joy to caregivers, and to support them in any way that we can through our nonprofit. Okay, without much further ado, my first guests are the embodiment of support and compassion. And having been through the journey themselves, these are just two very special people. And I want to welcome them today. Please welcome them with me. Aloha, George and Jeannie with Compassion for Cancer Caregivers. Hi, I'm so happy
Aloha,
to
Sammy.
be on this show. Oh, I just love you too.
It's good to be on board with you. And thank you for the invitation for Jeannie and myself. You know, it gives us a chance to kind of talk story about where we were and how we got there and what we're doing now at the same time. So I'll kind of kick it off if it's okay. My first wife, Carol, back in 2003 and 4 and 5, I was the caregiver. And back in then, I wish Give Me a Break was around. I tell you that. You may have been, but I didn't know about you at that
No,
time.
I
So
wasn't.
yeah. So I was taking care of her. You know, I'm the man of the house. I'll do everything.
Right.
And boy, was that a mistake because my health went down fast after 2.5 years before she passed. But there was one incident in there that really stuck with me, Savvy. It was unbeknown to me, somebody showed up my door with a meal for me that I never met before and from a church I did not go to. Well, that stayed on my mind for I don't know how long, you know. And so when Jeannie and I retired, we were in church and we heard that we should be doing something, you know, and we thought, wow, this is a great chance for us to do something. So Tightwad George, he put money in a kitty to form a 901 501 nonprofit, and you know, we took off to some training in Cancer Treatment Centers of America in Goodyear, Arizona, and got trained there. And came back, and Jeannie really jumped in to see if there was anything going for caregivers. And it was very little at that time back in there. So we kind of reached out in there and formed a training program for Compassion for Cancer Caregivers. And that at that time, they gave us the foundation, but it changed from there. I'm going to let Jeannie talk a little bit about the training program, if you will, honey, that we do.
Okay, so what we train volunteers to do is to create a network of support from amongst the family and the friends of the cancer caregiver and the patient. It's actually 4 sessions, about 2 hours apiece. During the pandemic, we had to switch from live presentations to
To
Zoom.
online. Yeah.
Yeah, and for us at this age, that was quite a challenge, but we managed to do that. Now the pandemic is kind of like in the past. We're doing it in person again.
Yeah.
So the first session we called the Wall of Silence. And the reason for that is because the cancer patient and caregivers sometimes are reluctant to talk about the diagnosis, and we understand. So on one side of that wall, they don't say much about what they're going through. And on the other side of the wall, there are family and friends who really want to help, but they don't know what to do and they
What to
don't know
do?
what to say.
Yes.
Yeah. So this wall of silence creates a division at a time when the patient and the caregiver most need the love, the support, the encouragement from family and friends. So that first session, we talk about this and how to work through that wall.
Yeah. And then
That's
then our next
amazing.
session we started, it's called Actions Speak Louder Than Words. And I think we all can relate to that, you know, and mainly do something, even if you are uncertain. Let me give you an example that happens all the time. Somebody finds out somebody has cancer and they may know them fairly well. They'll walk up to them and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about your cancer diagnosis. Oh, please, if there's anything I can do, just let me know."
And they're never going to ask.
No.
That's a bad scenario. When we get into that, you know, a couple things happen here. First of all, that cancer patient has no idea what they need. They're getting into the journey, and their mind is
I want
just
to get rid of the
frizzled.
cancer. That's what I want.
Yeah. So the mistake made when you go up to do something like that, tell the person what you can do. Give them your phone number, make sure they have it, and tell them what days you're available to do something. You know, give them some groundwork so when they call, they know
Yeah.
you're prepared and you are prepared. So
Yeah.
the other is just a feel good for the person came by and says, call me anytime. And that really doesn't work very well. But we get into that and speak louder. You know, actions just really speak loud for us. You don't have to always say something through your
Do it.
activities. You know, it could be like myself. Somebody brought me a meal. You may like doing yard work, walking the dog, taking out the trash, which our neighbor did when I had cancer, you know, for over 2 years. You know, it's cultivating those meaningful relationships
Yeah.
in there. You know,
Yes.
get to know them because you don't want everybody in your house. You want somebody you trust in your house in there.
Yeah.
And that's why we work with family and friends and stuff because they will let them in the house and help them on this journey.
And I love that because you bring them all together and you provide an education for them that's not out of their league, so to speak. It's an
Right.
education that brings them together that everyone can get. Everyone can nod to that and say, I can do that. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not like they're not, it's really funny. And that we're having this discussion because yesterday I was kind of hanging out with several of my high school friends, and, we're all in our Medicare year this year, right? So we're all talking about, Medicare. And of course I'm thinking to myself, dear God, I've gotten to the point where my discussion's all about Medicare. But, we were also talking about everyone's kind of dealing with cancer in one way or another, ironically. And so we had this discussion. The majority of the time, it was taken up on what you can and can't eat, and what you wish people understood about what you can and can't eat, and
That's
how nice it would be to have somebody, bring you a meal that you can accept and say, "Oh, I can't eat that," or just be like, "Oh, I'm so happy, thank you," And so I think that the education that you can bring to the families to help them be more empathetic and learn and understand that communication, so important what you do. And it really is that compassion, to understand, to take that moment to really allow each other to communicate,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
I love that. I just love what you do. I think it's amazing. And I, of
And
course, like people, you say you wish you had given me a break. I wish I had you when I was going through, my mother's breast cancer.
that's
And
right.
of course, I'm going through the love of my life is currently going through cancer, and we're dealing with that. And so, all of those things, right? It just knowing you have that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
And knowing there's somebody out there who is compassionate and who does get it. That's the
Yeah.
community that we need. Yeah.
And in our chest, we have some tools we provide in our training. Meal Train is one of them, which takes care of a lot of that stuff in there
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah. There's so much
So
information, you guys. You need to go on their website and check it out, because on their compassionforcaregivers.org website, there's a lot. But just call George and Jeannie. Call them. They'll
yeah,
answer the phone, 808-330-3906. And I'll say that one more time for those that are listening on podcast. Go get something to write with, 808-330-3906, and Compassion for Cancer Caregiver caregivers.org. Let me do that one more time. Compassionforcancercaregivers.org. Check out their website, because there's a lot of information on the website that you are going to be surprised that you really could use. And then I know there's one other thing that you do that's very special. The kit, I think you call them the compassion kits, right? Tell me about your compassion kits.
I'm going to show you one.
There you
I'm
go.
gonna
So
do
for
that
those of
right
you on
now. Okay,
podcast, he's holding up this
I'm gonna pull
wonderful
out the
bag.
goodies and let
Oh,
Jeannie talk about it.
So
yes, filled with
one of the
goodies.
things that are most appreciated is this plush fleece blanket. And it's really a lap blanket. It's not too big, it's not too small, but it's just right to keep the caregiver or the patient warm while they're in treatment at the hospital. We also have an adult coloring book. And just to show you, it's not one of those small, dizzying, uh,
Squint eyes.
yeah, small images, but it's big enough. It comes also with coloring pencils and a sharpener. We also have a word search book with the
Large
theme
print. I love that. Large
large
print. Did you all see that? It's a large print.
print. Chicken soup for the soul with encouraging
I love
messages. We
that.
have two colorful notepad journals made by volunteer craftspeople like my sister and her friends,
Aw.
the coloring pencils, a deck of cards,
Oh, that's
and a
great.
sharpener, and a little note from us giving
Oh,
you
that's cute.
encouragement, our brochure, and we would like feedback because we read every item that you write about, and this helps us to know if what we are giving is useful or helpful. And when we apply for grants, they ask us, "How do you know what you're doing is needed or wanted?" We don't know until we hear from you. So
Those are
that's
those thoughtful little things. That's what I love. See, and it's that compassion that you two have. You two really are an example of what it's about out there. And you guys, I mean, here's another thought. If anyone out there who's listening or watching wants to volunteer or wants to support or help them in any way, contact George and Jeannie. They are just amazing people. Look at the hearts that they're putting out there. Those little things in one wonderful tote that you can take with you and just grab and go whenever you have to sit there and get chemo, or, in my case, when the phlebotomy day comes. And, it's like all of those things that you're doing, it can be occupied a little bit. Just the blanket itself is such a thoughtful thing. Nobody thinks to have that lap blanket, and so thank you for that. That's amazing. And I know you wanted to offer us something a little special with our walk coming up, especially.
Yes.
You want to talk about that, George?
Sure. We're here to support Savvy and her organization. She does such a wonderful world of things in the community, and we're just here to help out. So we are going to come over to her walk that evening, and we'll have a table there, and we'll have some compassion kits. So please come up and talk. I'll be there, and if Jeannie can break loose from all her work, she'll be there with me too. And we'd love to hear your story and get a compassion kit in your hand. It would be great, and it's from our heart to your heart that we do this, and we're thankful that you would reach out and come and see us at that time. Thank you, Savvy.
So
I
I should
love
say that
that.
everything we do, there's no charge. We
None.
don't charge fees or anything for whatever we do.
In there.
Yeah.
And I'd like
thank
to
you for that.
one quick step on the training. We do just in time training. Every once in a while, somebody gets a surprise and says, "Oh, my husband, I don't know what to do, where to go." Call 808-330-3906, and we'll set up something where we, like Jeannie said, family, friends, and together, so we can go on this journey.
They'll
and walk
step
together.
in and not just hug you, they'll hold your hands and have somebody there for you and your family the entire time. I mean, that's just caregivers. You're not alone. And especially with going
That's
through
right.
cancer, you've got a hand to hold here. And George and Jeannie are right there for you guys. And I can't wait. So don't miss our walk, you guys, because now you get to come and see George and Jeannie and get a free tote full of wonderfulness. It's a compassion kit that they're going to be giving out free. So please stop by. Even if you don't do the walk, just come and see George and Jeannie and meet these wonderful people. I'm so honored to have you on the show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you
I
for
can't wait
having
to
us.
see you now. So that's going to be on the 22nd, by the way, you guys, and we're going to talk more about that in the show. Thanks, and have a wonderful, wonderful day today. Bless both of you and your pure hearts. Thank you.
Thank you, dear. Aloha.
Aloha. Oh my goodness. I just think the world of them. And this is what it's about when you're a caregiver, right? You've gone through it, and then you know that no one should have to go through that. And so when there's a need, you pick up the need, right? You just get in there and do what you have to do. So thank you so much for coming and sharing your compassion for all caregivers, really. Thank you so much. The July issue of the Givers Guides is all about our Shine a Light. I was talking about our Shine a Light for caregivers. It's a glow walk. So we have it in the evening. So we got glow sticks, and you can bring any other glow gear you want. You can paint yourself with glow in the dark paint if you want. And it's indoors at Windward Mall. And so you're out of the rain and weather. You're out of, you're safe. It's within the mall. It's air conditioned, and it's a great excuse to go shopping. The new Target store is opening up and will be open. So if you haven't gone yet, do it at our walk, and that's going to actually be part of the store. It's going to be part of the course. So the walk is going to go throughout the whole mall, and there's going to be a map. You follow it. There's challenges and selfie ups all along the way. So it'll be an exciting evening and a great excuse for a caregiver to get out. Bring your carry with you. It's totally wheelchair friendly and accessible. And, we're just going to have a wonderful time. And now all the more reason to meet George and Jeannie and get your free tote as well. So come on down. If you haven't registered, remember the first 100, and we're getting close to it. The first 100 get a free backpack, reflective backpack, and a glow stick. So what a great time and evening you're going to have. Join us for our walk. Oh, wait, I didn't even add it to the stream. There we go. Look at that. There it is. And so for those of you who are watching live, you'll be able to see the flyer there. Again, July 22nd from 5 to 8 at the Windward Mall. So please join us. Really looking forward to seeing everybody and really excited about what to do. And all of this information, by the way, is in the Givers Guides magazine currently that is out this month. So check it out and get your copy now and get your subscription, $24.99. And it also goes to help pay for this walk. So, we have caregivers who look forward to this. Last year, we had so much fun And I've just been told that everyone's excited about this year's too. So join us. And if you haven't registered, go do it. Go do it now. Just go to gab808.org, our website, and you can, or /shine if you want to skip a click, and sign up. Get registered today. Don't even mess around. And it's in 10 days, you guys. So for those of you who have been procrastinating like I do, it's in 10 days. Okay. So go get logged on and registered now. I know you can register at the event. I know, but you wait because there's only a couple of us to register the line of people. So do it ahead of time. Your bib number will be all printed. It'll be that fast. Okay. All right. So our next guest, of course, saw a need and filled it. And she is the creator and host of Fading Memories, which is a podcast that she created to support family caregivers. So please, let me get this out of here. There we go. So please welcome with me today, Jen Fink. Hi, how are you with Fading Memories podcast? Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on. We met and talked before the show, and it was like we just hit it off because, it's those common hearts, right? We all are doing what we do because we've all been through it.
Yep.
So tell us your caregiving story.
Well, my mom had Alzheimer's for 20 years. My dad, much like George, did probably 99% of the caring. He was very resistant to help from my sister and I, which we know. And thank you for those lovely statistics, because those are eye-opening. Yeah. I knew I had the older versions in my head, so you've updated me. So when my father passed away, it became really obvious that engaging with my mom, providing her quality of life, joy, and not prolonging her dying from Alzheimer's was a very high bar, and I was not ready for it at all. Yeah. Like most family caregivers, when they get that call that thrusts them into this position, because nobody signs up for it, not really. No. I did what everybody does, and so this was in mid 2017. I tried to find books on Alzheimer's caregiving. There were many fewer than there are now. And I did deep internet research and came up, with ideas, and everything failed spectacularly. All of the traditional advice, it didn't work with my mom. And some of the advice is it's kind of simplistic. It's like, be in their reality. Well, what the hell does that mean?
What does that mean? So should I start hallucinating or staying up all night and walking in circles? I mean,
well, you might as a caregiver, unfortunately.
Right? I know. Yes.
It basically means you cannot remind them that, hey, today is July 12th. Yeah. I'm in California. You're in Hawaii. I mean, our known reality is not necessarily their known reality, but there's a whole lot of more nuance to that. So, yes. Of course, this being 2017, back in the old days, I was driving my car to a gym to do a workout. And I thought, I should look for a podcast for Alzheimer's caregivers because, there's podcasts on everything. I felt so accomplished because, I'd finally had that idea. I get home, I look, and there was one. And I'm like, okay, well, one's better than nothing. And I listened to a couple episodes, and it just was not my cup of tea. So for better or worse, I created my own. I did the podcast for 3 years while my mom was still alive, and I was running my own photography business. So that was a lot. My mom passed away at the very start of the pandemic, which is very interesting because most of the world shrugged. It's like, oh gosh, sorry your mom died, but this pandemic, what? Literally it was March 31st. So we were all still going, what the hell is going on?
Wow. Yeah.
And,
yeah. So,
I don't fault any of the friends or family or anybody. I mean, it was a very confusing time, but, the world moves on, and it's like, we never did a celebration of life, or we never did anything for poor mom. Oh, well, now it's 2023, life goes on. Right. So it's kind of weird, but.
And how do you mend from that? Right. How do how do you follow the norm of the grieving process in a situation like that, right? It's just the new norm now, right? Okay,
Yeah.
they've passed. All right, well, what are we doing tomorrow? You know,
Yeah, I was
gosh,
like, okay, well, I can't have a celebration of life. I can't have a funeral. I can't do anything. So I guess I'll just do what I was doing before she died. It was a little surreal. When you look back on it, you think, gosh, that was probably not super healthy. But here I am 3 slightly plus years later. I'm still learning lots of fantastic advice and information from my guests. I had an episode that came out this week that talks about a company that's looking at treatments for dementias, Alzheimer's, from a different perspective than the treatments that we just pretty much got this year.
yeah,
And, you never know which one's going to be the right one. Maybe. And in the conversation I had with their founder, he thinks it might end up being a cocktail, just kind of like the AIDS treatments are.
right,
And
right,
I listened to another podcast just for those people who aren't necessarily in the Alzheimer's and dementia world. There was a treatment approved 2 years ago, but it had a lot of controversy. Medicare said, oh, we're never paying for that. We're not going to pay for any drugs in this line. In January of this year, a second treatment drug came out. It was fast tracked by the FDA. Medicare's like, yeah, not interested in paying for that. It was the only FDA approved drugs not covered by Medicare. So that was baloney. And it just last week got full FDA approval, and Medicare's like, okay, fine, we'll pay for it. They're not super thrilled
right,
about it.
right.
But it only works for people in the very, very early stages. Many people are not really aware of what's going on in the early stages, so there's still a lot of work to do. These
Yeah.
two doctors were speaking on a different podcast, and they likened to where we're at with Alzheimer's treatments as to where we were 30 years ago with cancer and AIDS treatments. So that's
Yeah.
kind of interesting. A little hope on the horizon finally.
Yeah, well, it's not going to do anything for my mom who's in her final stage, and unfortunately, there's no turning back from that. But I am a third generation, right? So my grandmother passed with dementia-related complications. My mother is now passing, and I'm sorry, who am I? Who are you? Oh, that's right, I'm on the show, and I'm having those moments, and so I can only hope that the drug in the next 5 or 10 years will somehow get to that point where it'll make a difference for me, or if it's not too late. I needed this maybe 20 years ago myself. So who knows where we're going to be, and who knows how much of it can or cannot help. But I'm just so excited that they're at least doing something and recognizing that we need this. I mean, dementia's been around for a very long time, and dementia related illnesses have been around for a long time, but they're finally, I think that there are more deaths now due to dementia-related diseases than cancer. So they're finally doing something about it. Yay! It's almost like how you need a red light or you need a stoplight in your neighborhood, but they're not going to put one in until 2 or 3 people have passed at that intersection. And
Exactly.
that's how I feel sometimes about all of these drug things that are going on. And I'm glad that they're doing everything they have to do. And I'm certainly glad that the research has been going on for so long. But boy, we really need all of this. And in the meantime, caregivers are shouldering the weight of not having that medical assistance.
Yeah, my firm belief, and this is without the treatments throw this off slightly, but not entirely, is anybody that is diagnosed with any form of dementia immediately needs to be enrolled in palliative care. And I'm assuming most of your guests know, your listeners know what that means. It's like hospice, but it's not end of life care.
Right.
It supports the patient, and then it supports the caregivers. Because with dementia, there's nothing to do, and you take them to the doctor because they've got a UTI, and that's a trauma.
Oh God.
Because they're like, okay, can you give us a urine sample? And my mom's looking at them with a little paper cup, like, are you like from space, or and I'm like, and then they look at me and say, well, can you help her? It's like, God, no. Like, I'm not crawling down there and being at risk of getting slapped around because my mom hated help. That's always fun. I'm like, don't you remember the last time we were here? We did it like this. Like, why do I have to constantly remind you guys how to do your job? Like,
just getting them to the hospital is is so difficult, right? I had to bait
Mhm.
my mother by telling her she loved to go shopping. And I would just say, Mom, we're going to go shopping. We just got to make one stop along the way. And so she literally thought she was using the bathroom in the shopping mall. She
Oh,
didn't
wow.
realize it was at a doctor's office. And so, the things you had to do. But, they lied to me about Santa. So I figured, fair is fair. But yeah, and a lot of caregivers are, because we're thrust into it. We don't know. We don't know what we don't know.
And
And so
doctors hand you a pamphlet and pat you on the head and say, okay, see you back here in 6 months. And it's like, for what?
yeah,
For you to tell me they've declined some more?
nothing's
Duh.
happened. Right. And so I love that you do that. You talk about and address all of those issues on your podcast, because it is focused on that. It's really focused on dementia, Alzheimer's, all those related diseases. And so that's, please, you guys, you wonder why I bring on people who are doing podcasts and I have a podcast, but because I'm not going to cover all of that. And you need the information. We have to hold hands to get these resources out to caregivers, because you need this. It's going to change everything for you. Just the fact that she brings up that you need palliative care. You don't even know what that is. If you don't, get on her podcast and find out, because I may or may not have somebody from hospice come on the show and talk about that. Now, we have in the past, but I think that was 2 years ago when I had somebody talk about palliative care. So, Jen is doing this all the time. And so you guys need to check out her podcast, fadingmemoriespodcast.com. It's just that simple. It's on Apple and Spotify. Just check it out and listen to what she's got to talk about, because she's got people on that I don't. And, you don't just watch one show all day, you guys, you watch several. So listen to her podcast, listen to our podcast. That'll at least give you a couple hours to keep you busy through the day while you're going through chaos.
Yep. That's the whole reason for a podcast, because, I have stacks of books from guests. I don't have my mom. I just have a golden retriever and a spouse. I got plenty of time to read, except that I don't.
Yeah.
And, you don't have time when you're juggling, managing a household, managing yourself, managing your person. You don't have time to read an entire book. And trust me, there are great ones out there. I do book
Right. And you're
recommendations.
so exhausted anyway. You just get through the first couple of paragraphs and you're snoring with a book in your lap, and you
Or on
wake
your
up and all of a
face.
sudden you go, oh my God, what did I read? I don't know. You're going to go clean up pee now,
Exactly.
and it's just, this is life as a caregiver as we know it. So I love that there's more and more books available on audio as well.
Yeah, that's true. And if you don't mind, I actually have an addition to what George, was it Jeannie? I am so
Yes.
terrible with names. Oh, good. Thank God.
Good job.
So I learned from another podcaster. His podcast is it's on movies. He and his mom came on and talked about how their family handled caregiving for his grandmother, her mom. And then the grandmother's sister, who was never married or had children, got Alzheimer's. So she didn't have like built-in caregivers like many of us do, which that's kind of a controversial way to put it.
Yeah.
So they expanded what they called their family care committee to incorporate grandma. And so I boiled down their advice, because their advice was somewhat particular to a family unit, like an extended family unit. So this is the advice that I offer caregivers all the time: is as soon as you have a diagnosis, as soon as you know that the poop is hitting the fan one way or the other, you need to take a few minutes every day for a week, write down everything you got to do today. And after a week, you've got your daily tasks that just have to get done. Now add in the weekly tasks, like getting the lawn mowed, getting the trash to the curb, those things. And then add in appointments and those random things that always foul up our schedules. Now you're going to make a second list of everybody does not have to be in town. They don't have to be family. They could, be neighbors, friends, religious community members.
Members in a community group.
Exactly.
Girl Scout parents.
Exactly. I forgot about, my daughter was never in Girl Scouts. Here's the key. Exactly. If you know them well enough to have a conversation with them, write their name down.
Yeah.
But write down the skill you think they can help with the most. So Jen here, not calling and talking to banks or insurance companies. Nope. Can't stand it. Stresses me out just thinking about it. I mean, if you really asked, I'd probably do it. I'd hate it. I would not want to offer it up again. But if you backed me into a corner, I'd probably say yes. But don't do that, okay? It's
Yeah,
not a good way to
Savvy,
get
don't
help.
call me for vacuuming, cleaning, but I will cook. I will make meals. I will make
I
a
will
dinner.
make
Right?
meals. I might
Yeah.
clean. I'd
No.
rather clean than talk to the insurance companies. Nobody's.
I'll talk to the insurance companies. There you go. Well, you put me on the list, right?
So see, so now you have a list. You know, Jen will bake. Maybe she'll clean. She'll definitely walk your dogs for you because I'm down to one golden retriever. It feels naked. We've had 3 at once, many times. So it's weird to have just one.
Yeah.
Just one.
It's multiple.
And so when Jen comes up and says, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear about your mom or your cancer diagnosis. Is there anything I can do to help?" Bam, you have an answer.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about it. You don't have to get back to them. You don't have to take their phone number. You could say, "Oh my gosh, it stresses me out so bad to call the insurance companies and the banks. Can you handle setting up the online banking and checking on the whatever deductibles for these medications for me?" You would say yes. I would be like, "Would you like me to make you brownies?"
Yeah. And that's true. Nobody thinks about doing that. And of course, once you're in chaos, your brain goes dead anyway, and you're just on remote. So start thinking about that now. And, I talk about this. I do a presentation about this. It's on our YouTube channel, about planning ahead for your care receiving plan. What's your care receiving plan? So don't just wait for something to happen. You never know, and by the way, there's childhood dementia as well. So don't think that, well, I'm a mom with kids. Don't think that something can't happen. Prepare for everything as much as you can now and get that plan together. And that plan is going to include who in your community is going to support the one person that's going to be carrying the bulk load. Because I don't care what you say. Oh, no, we're a tight family. We all help each other. It doesn't matter. One person will get strapped with everything. So plan it out now. Really.
Yeah, people react to
advice,
especially with a severely life-limiting disease like Alzheimer's or other dementias. There are some adult children like ourselves who go, I just can't, I can't see mom like that, and we're sitting here thinking, God, grow up, get over yourself.
But that's their comfort zone. My brother's that way too. That's the comfort zone. It's getting hard for me now too. I'm having a struggle with it, seeing mom catatonic. And I sit there and cry in the car for 15 minutes, 20 minutes after I've left visiting her, because it's hard to see that. So it's not easy for anyone, and I'm pretty tough, but that one, it shoots me right in the heart every time.
Yeah. I always had a hard time when my mom went into memory care, and they, are not allowed for obvious reasons to blow dry and style their hair. First off, I don't think my mom would have tolerated it, but the risk of burning them is significant. So they just don't. So my mom, for a while, she'd comb her hair in the same position that she would have dried it. And then after a while, she just combed it straight down, and she wore clothes that were too big for her. And, it's just she looked like a little old homeless lady. And it was a little embarrassing, because it's I'm assuming that sometimes people would look at me and think, why can't she get her mom to dress better? What's wrong with me as the daughter? So, they didn't know. Maybe
my mom would show up with layers of clothing at the base for her pajamas, and then she'd have about 2 other outfits over that. So, and we laugh about that now, and that's a fun memory for me, but it was tough. And you had to go through and then the aftermath of that is going through, helping them to get dressed, taking off the clothes, arguing with them that you have more than one layer of clothing on. And so it was a whole process. But, these are the things that help you get through. And this is why we need community. We need podcasts like yours. We need support groups like ours. And there are many, many others out there. And I'm going to connect as many as I can to caregivers. And I'm certainly happy that now all of our caregivers will know about your podcast, because I think it's so meaningful and so important. And that's where I really wanted to have you on the show. And I'm just so thankful you took the time to be here and really getting to know you. And I hope we can do some wonderful things together, because I think I think I should have you on the show periodically, just become an authority on the show to talk about some of the things that have happened on your podcast, just to share that information. But gosh, thank you so much, Jen. And it's a pleasure meeting you and being able to be community with somebody who gets it.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
know,
That's crucial because it's definitely a difficult journey. And I'm gonna say one thing, because you said that you were at Medicare age. Anybody that's 65 years or older should have a cognitive screening every single year. It is covered by Medicare. Thank you
do
to us
it.
Alzheimer's advocates for legislation.
Yes.
I didn't help with that one. That came before my time, but most doctors don't do it. So freaking demand it. If your mom's got dementia,
Do
you
it.
know, I don't care if you got to grab them by the lab coat lapels. Just
And I'm scared to, scared to hell right now because I'm going to do it. And you guys, I could easily say, well, better if I don't know. No, I'm going to be doing it. Actually, I'm turning 65 at the end of this year. I'm getting my Social Security. I'm doing my Medicare. I'm doing all of that. And I'm also making an appointment to get screened. So do it.
Yeah.
Because the more you know, the better. Knowledge is power. And you can change a lot of what you're doing now to kind of keep things at bay, and or you can waste away. So please, thank you for that. That's great advice. See, I love these tips. But thank you so much. And
You're welcome.
I will definitely have to bring you on again. You guys, Fading Memories podcast, available on Apple and Spotify, or go to fadingmemoriespodcast.com. And gosh, send a note of thanks to Jen for everything you're doing and keeping some of that information out there. So we're going to keep it going. We're going to keep putting out there as much as we can for caregivers. Thanks so much, Jen. I'm so happy to have you on today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Aloha. All right, you guys. Wow. Whoa, that was awesome. And if you didn't get all of those pointers, write them down, because go back and listen to this again on podcast. We're on podcast as well. You guys know that. So some great information for you. And just thank you. Thanks, Jen, for providing that platform for caregivers. The more information we can put out there, the better. The more we're going to change that survival statistic and flip it around. Go from 70 to 30% instead, right? Okay, so heartfelt thanks and mahalo as well to George and Jeannie today for coming on with Compassion for Caregiver Survivors. And thank you again, Jen. Next week, we will have Lonnie. You all know Lonnie Almanza. She is my sister from another mister. She'll be on next week. And she's going to be talking about her book launch. Ooh, so exciting. I'm so excited and proud of her to have written this. It was a real emotional journey for her. And I know you're going to love the book. We're going to talk all about it next week. Also, her mentor, her help to get to this step, Miriam, will be on. And she'll be on a video interview to share on the show. So you're going to want to watch it if you can. So be on live, or you can always go back later, of course, on our Facebook page. We'll also be chatting with Michael Dowell of Ohana Stair Lifts. Now, I know that stair lift seems like something for the person you're caring for, but trust me, if they fall, it's in your hands. And he's also with the Fall Consortium, the State Fall Consortium. So he'll also be talking about that and some advice for caregivers to avoid yourself falling and to avoid the falls of the one you care for. So set a reminder on your phone right now to tune in every Wednesday at noon on the Caring Caregiver Show on our Facebook page, Caring Caregiver Show, or on the Give Me a Break Facebook page. Or, of course, we're live on YouTube as well. And this is brought to you by Give Me a Break and sponsored by Giver's Guide. So help us keep our sponsor happy. Get your subscription today. Go to giversguides.com. Don't worry if you're missing us live. And if you're here live, kisses and hugs to those of you who are watching us live. Thank you. And, of course, if you're not going to be able to do that, just check us out on our podcast. And we're on just about every platform out there. Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, it doesn't matter. We're on all of them. Just type in, even Google, I think, just type in Caring Caregiver Show and listen to our podcast. And then right after that, type in Fading Memories podcast and listen to Jen as well. In the meantime, everyone, just remember to breathe. Take a deep breath. And here's hoping that you're finding more joy in caregiving every week, right here on the Caring Caregiver Show. Thanks for tuning in. Please always be kind to yourself and to all who are caring. Aloha, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.